Rhode Island has always been changing, and I know because those changes are who I am. They're how I ended up here tonight. Just over a century ago, 107 years ago this month, my great-grandmother Antonetta immigrated to this neighborhood. Had there been a quota on immigrants from Italy at the time, she'd have far surpassed it. She came with an uncle. Today she'd be called a chain migrant. Under today's laws, most of the Italian immigrants who came to this neighborhood would be derided as illegal immigrants and came from what was then considered a shithole country. And they came to a place whose promises were not always met by its actions. And as they worked, they suffered, but there was a basic deal. Work hard, play by the rules, you'll get ahead, and your children will have the chance at a better life. That deal wasn't open to everyone, but it was there to grow. And on both sides of my family, it seemed true for a very long time. Both of my grandfathers had businesses in this neighborhood. One had a body shop and one had a pharmacy. And today they're both the same chain dollar store. And if that doesn't tell you what's happened to the middle class, I don't know what would. And when I used to walk home from school down Academy Avenue, the future seemed limitless until the first signs of what was about to come hit us, and the economy fell out beneath our feet. My dad lost his jewelry store, and though it wasn't his fault, it quickly became his problem. And I watched the hardest working person I know lose everything he'd worked for by forces completely outside of his control. And like many, we moved to Florida in search of new opportunities. It ripped at the fabric of my family, and it made me angry. And while a few were unscathed, most of our friends and family had it worse. And this has been our story for decades now. Those at the very top do better and better, and the rest of us have to work harder and harder just to make ends meet. And today the deck is so stacked against people trying to get into the middle class that the entire system feels like a sick joke. The smartest and most talented kids I went to school with are all working other places, contributing their skills to other people. And those people who stayed still see less opportunity, stagnant wages, and bills that just get bigger and bigger. And a few years ago, I moved home and tried to take the lessons I've learned in my life so far to build this state back up because I love this place. Just ask Eric what happens every time there's a Rhode Island clue on Jeopardy. I love this place, and I love these people, and we've suffered for too long. Now, I learned pretty on there's nowhere quite like Rhode Island, and that's been reinforced everywhere I've been. But when we left, I learned tough lessons about the global economy and how changes in technology and trade work their ways into the lives of everyday people. And we can't forget that we're not just competing with our neighbors, we're competing with the whole world. And we need to think big if we're going to thrive. From my big Italian family, I learned the importance of hard work and how important it is for immigrants to continually breathe new life into our state. Our highest calling is to protect the rights of those in our state who don't look like us or sound like us, and we need to remember the prejudices and hardships we faced and that have passed because a generation or two later we looked like the people in power. We need to do better for the newest among us. When I went to college at Florida International University, I was among the 15% of people who were white. And despite my own challenges in a society that didn't always respect who I was, I learned how ignorant I had been about so much. And I learned firsthand that all anyone needs in this life is a fair fight and someone to believe in them. But today in Rhode Island, the game isn't fair for almost anyone, and our most vulnerable communities don't have the resources they need to get ahead. We need to ensure that every community in our state has the tools they need and the support they need to break the cycles of poverty and end systemic racism once and for all. At a tech startup, I learned what it takes for a business to get off the ground, and I learned how important it is to learn from failure. We need to make it easier for entrepreneurs and small business owners to create good jobs in Rhode Island. Working the overnight shift at a luxury hotel with Elizabeth, who's here tonight, I learned how hard so many people work for so little. We need to raise the minimum wage to be where it would be had we just pegged it to inflation when it started. And we need to make sure that the path is as wide as possible for people to access higher paying jobs in our state too. We have a long way to go on healthcare. We need to make it easier for working moms to afford childcare and ensure that when they get older, their kids go to schools that will unlock every ounce of their potential, no matter what zip code they live in. By what had to be some kind of clerical error, they let me into the London School of Economics. Rebecca was let in on purpose. There I learned how important being connected to the rest of the world is. And I learned how the example of our democracy took a continent ravaged by war and built peace, and inspired billions of people to forge their own destiny. We can never lose sight of how important it is for our democracy to work, and then that though it comes with many rights, citizenship, more importantly, has enormous responsibilities. We have to remember that progress always involves sacrifice, and we need to hold on to our values, our big ideas, and our grand story, because we need them now more than ever. And when I came back to Rhode Island, I was reminded of so much I already knew. This is the best place in the whole world to live. We have so much potential, and we've been failed by a government that's been run by and for and of the insiders for too long. And I've been around the political establishment here just long enough to know that the thing it needs most is new blood. But I've also had the opportunity to work every day to try and build our state back up. I've worked with our manufacturers to sow the seeds of a new industrial revolution. I've worked with Dan to help build new career and tech schools so that everyone, not just people with four-year degrees, can get a good job. I've worked with the airport to bring the first year-round service to Europe in our state's history. I've worked to expand investment in affordable housing and unleash the power of our universities to create good new jobs. And these things are important, but we have so much more to do. And if you send me the State House, I will continue fighting for a Rhode Island that works for every single one of us, not just the well-off and not just the well-connected. I'm not running against anyone or against anything. I'm running for our future. We are in a divided and sometimes really mean place in our politics right now. At times, we've all been guilty of making it worse. And there is an easy tendency to simply turn around and say, well, all we got to do is resist Donald Trump, as if his agenda was a thing that didn't change every time he has indigestion. And if that's what's actually at the heart of our community's problems. We have too many politicians who try to lord their intellectual superiority over the rest of us and infect our politics with the kind of divisive name-calling and arrogance that destroyed Congress. Beware of anyone who tells you that they are running for a state legislature to stop Donald Trump from doing anything, because all you're going to get is someone who's out to make silly promises, get their name in the newspaper, and achieve absolutely nothing to build our home back up. I believe you lead by humility and with action. I believe you lead with humility and action, not arrogance and exclamation. And that you can take the time to listen to the people you're going to represent, not lecture them. This is not a campaign about who should have won the Democratic nomination for president 2 years ago, and it's not a campaign about Donald Trump. Now, that's not to say I'm not appalled by his behavior most of the time and the damage he's done to our democracy and the fear that he's instilled in communities around our country and the fear he's manipulated in others. But this campaign is about us. This campaign is about what can happen when we leave our old fears and prejudices behind and come together to make a better Rhode Island for our kids. I'm running to build up the community that made me who I am, that has given so much to my family, and which I am in the lucky and privileged position to be able to give something back to. That's what it's all about. It's about turning around and taking the hand of a little boy in Autiello who's wondering why he's not into chasing the girls with his friends, or a little girl on Fallon Avenue where my grandparents had their first house, who came to Rhode Island as a refugee from the Congo to escape war and find peace, and to pull them along into a better future with us. Now, I get that that's now not how a lot of people are approaching politics today. And it may not be to every voter's liking, and that's okay. Some people just want firebrands who promise the world. But the promise I made to myself when I started this was that I was going to campaign as me, a son of Rhode Island who's made mistakes and learned a lot, and believes that our best days are ahead of us, and that there is more that unites us than divides us. If I make one promise to the people in my district, it's that I will first and foremost be a senator who listens. I will be a senator who is here, in your living rooms and in your churches, at the neighborhood bar, and in the dog park, mostly just to pet your dog. I'll be your champion in the state house because in this district is all of the diversity and promise that is Rhode Island. In this restaurant, like so many on these streets, we're reminded of the struggle of immigrants, and we can dedicate ourselves to making the path a little straighter for those who are here now. In Ebenezer Baptist Church, just on the other side of the Armory, we have to see that the struggle of Black Rhode Islanders is all of our struggles. In Sproutle, a startup in Oneyville that develops toys for kids on the autism spectrum, we see that we too have the ability to be the birthplace of new companies that can create new jobs and solve important problems. And my neighbor, Mrs. Garcia, who cleans houses for a living, we see that all work has dignity. In Riff Raff Bookstore, a couple of blocks away, we see a couple of entrepreneurs at the forefront of an economic transformation that is reinventing what a mom and pop business can be in the digital age and how we become connected in an age of disconnection. The artists and the actors who are our neighbors show us the vitality of our culture, declare the unvarnished truth, and remind us that there is nothing we cannot create. Tonight, my neighbor Joe Wilson Jr. couldn't be here because he's understudying for Denzel Washington on Broadway. And today there is a little girl at her after-school activity at Central High School who will follow Viola Davis onto the red carpet someday. I'm running to be her senator. I'm running to build a Rhode Island where she can look in the mirror, look at herself and say, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and I can be whoever I want to be. I'm running for the kids who show up at Youth Pride on Westminster Street every week, wondering if the fact that they're gay or lesbian or trans means that they'll have to settle for less in this life. I'm running for the state senate because no kid growing up in Rhode Island should have their lives upended because of a lack of opportunity in our state like happened to me. That's what this is all about. We have to make the game fair for our families to ensure that health care and higher education are the guarantees of the richest society on the face of the planet, not the privilege for a few, to raise wages for working Rhode Islanders and lower the tax burden on low-income and middle-class people, to create good new jobs that will bring my friends, your kids, and your grandkids back to Rhode Island. I'm running to rebuild our public schools, confront our housing crisis, and build new infrastructure for a new century, to protect a woman's right to choose and to keep guns off our streets and out of our schools. To protect our environment and see that Rhode Island is an epicenter of the clean energy revolution that is coming, that must come. I'm running because in the face of cynicism, we must sow trust. In the face of hatred, we must sow love. And in the face of division, we must unite. And in the face of the small-minded repetition of tired slogans and easy shots, we can come together as one community to build a Rhode Island Antonetta once dreamed of in steerage aboard the Patria 107 years ago today. A lot has changed since then. But when I do my shopping along the same street she'd have done hers, I see dozens of houses flying rainbow flags. Those flags represent the same hope for freedom and opportunity that she sought then. They represent the social justice that we must continually demand in every age, that makes up the core of who we are as Rhode Islanders. They represent the struggle and the pain and the work that it takes to pull the American dream down from its pedestal and put it into action. Because from Rhode Island came the first Declaration of Independence, of pioneers who declared that we would chart our own course and that our republic would create a new world, leaving the fear and the suspicion of the old world behind. From Rhode Island, the technological progress that created the American middle class first found a home, and as it spread, the Industrial Revolution that started here transformed this country and with it the world. But the answers we most desperately need aren't to be found in the past or by going back to some mythical place that has never existed. They're to be found in the future and in joining our hands together and building it ourselves. A future where Rhode Island harnesses the power and promise of the ocean to save our planet, to create a new industrial revolution with new, good jobs at every level that will define America in the next century. A future where we redesign our government to no longer be a den of corruption and self-service, but to be more inclusive and modern and efficient. A future where going to college and learning a trade are held in the same esteem, and both offer a pathway to economic security and dignity. A future where we make life easier for seniors, not harder. A future where single moms juggling 2 jobs is easier, not harder. A future where young entrepreneurs opening a business is easier, not harder. I believe in Rhode Island, and I believe in Rhode Islanders. We have everything it takes to be the greatest, most prosperous state in America. Doing it is going to take fighting entrenched special interests. It's going to take trying things we haven't tried before and being open to new ideas that might sound scary. But we don't just need another politician representing us. We don't need opportunists who think that people who live here are just pawns in a game. We need new blood with the courage to lead. We need a vision for a Rhode Island that works for all of us. This small state can be as big as it wants, and there is no problem that faces us that Rhode Islanders can't solve. I'm going to need each and every single one of you to help me do this. I'm going to need you to sign up to volunteer. I'm going to need you to contribute what you can to this campaign. But I know with you behind me, we're going to win. And tonight, let us not simply curse the darkness. Let's light a candle. Let's bring our state roaring into the future and show the country and the world that size doesn't matter, heart does, that a hard history doesn't matter, vision does, and that fear doesn't matter, hope does. Thank you. That's what I was trying to do. Thank you. All right, get another drink.